long weekend when you got Friday off. Do you have a good weekend? No? At least it was long though, right? Got a long break. Do you remember on Thursday what we talked about in language?
Yes.
What did we talk about?
Nouns.
We talked a little bit about nouns. But what's the big thing we've been talking about all last week?
ER and EST.
On Thursday we talked about adding ER and EST onto nouns or onto what?
Adjectives.
Adjectives. And what was an adjective again?
It describes. No. It describes the noun.
Yeah, an adjective describes a noun. So an example of that, if I'm describing you, since you're a person, you're a noun, I could say you are funny. That's a word that describes you. Okay, so if I'm saying, or if we're adding ER and EST to adjectives, do you remember when we add ER? What's the rule?
When it be
When we're comparing how many things?
one.
Well, if I'm just talking about you, I'm not comparing.
Two.
If I'm talking about you and your brother,
Yeah.
then I add ER because we're comparing
And
two nouns. So two people, two places, two things. That's for ER. What's the other ending we can use?
EST.
EST, and we use EST when we're comparing three or more nouns. Okay, so let's go over those three, which I think it won't take you very long. So we had, do elephants have the big blank? So why is it biggest and not bigger?
Because biggest
We're talking about what?
one thing or two things.
Okay, if we're talking about two things, then it'd be ER, but you're saying that it's EST. So why is it
Because
biggest?
it says of any
Says of any.
animals.
Yeah, because they're talking about elephants and all animals. Are there only two animals in the whole world? No, we're talking about lots of things.
1,000.
Yeah, there's probably more than 1,000. That's a good estimate. Okay, now number 7. So first figure out what you're comparing. Are we only comparing two things, or are we comparing three or more? Okay, so they also have shortest tusks than African elephants do.
I shorter.
Well, I think we had shortest.
I shorter.
Well, what should it be?
Shorter.
Yeah. Because what are we comparing?
Only one thing or two.
Two things, yeah. The elephant is one of the slowest walkers of all animals. So why did I underline this? What does that mean?
Because it's more than one.
It's more than one, but two is more than one.
3 or more.
It's three or more, because if we say of all, if we're talking about all animals, we just talked about that. Is there only two animals in the whole world? No, of all animals, that's a lot of animals we're talking about. Okay, nice job. Okay, we'll all okay those when we start on our independent practice. Okay, so I think you pretty much have this. With ER, we're comparing two nouns. With EST, we're comparing three or more. I have a trick question for you. What if I'm just talking about one thing?
You just leave it the same.
Yeah. Am I comparing if I'm only talking about one thing?
No.
No, I'm just talking about it. I'm not comparing it. I can compare one thing to another thing, but then how many am I comparing? Two. Yeah, we can't compare just one thing. We're just talking about it. Okay, so today we're still kind of talking about comparing. Okay? But today we're going to talk about using the words more and most when we compare. And you use these all the time, so I know this is going to be really easy for you. Okay? So go ahead. Oh, I didn't get out your book. go ahead and open up to page 144. And we'll talk about comparing with more or most. Okay, so up at the top, they give us a sentence. We're going to figure out what's wrong with the sentence and how we can fix it. So their sentence is, did you know that cats are the most popularist pets in the United States? What's wrong with that?
Most should be more.
Most. So did you know that cats are the more popularist pets in the United States?
Most popular.
Yep, they have most, right?
Popular.
Most popular. Do we say popularist?
No.
No, that doesn't really make sense. So we would say, did you know that cats are the most
Most
popular pets in the United States? Nice job. So when we have long adjectives like the word popular, we use the words more or most to compare people, places, or things. So we're still comparing nouns. We use more when we're comparing two. So this is kind of like our rule with ER and EST. So if we're comparing two nouns, we use the word more. If we have three or more nouns, what word do we use?
Most.
Most. So in that sentence that we just went over, what are we talking about in that sentence?
Cats.
Cats. Are we talking about two cats or are we talking about...
More than one. Or only one.
We're only talking about one cat?
Well, better. More.
More than
Three.
three. That's why we have to use most popular. We're talking about all the cats in the United States. I already have 2 cats in my house.
I have 0.
There's like 10 cats in Strang where I live. So if there's already that many in this little town of Strang that I live in, there has to be thousands of cats in the United States. So we know we're talking about more than just 3 cats. Okay, so let's move on to our examples. So if we're just talking about one cat, their example is Tiger is a playful cat. Are we comparing anything there?
No.
No, we're just talking about one. But if we're talking about 2, Ginger is a more playful cat than Tiger. So why did they choose more?
Because they're comparing 2.
They're comparing 2 cats. Then our 3 or more, Ike is the most playful cat of all. Why did they choose most there?
Because they are talking about more than 3.
More than
cats.
3, yeah. So, and if you can see in that sentence, what's at the end?
Of all.
Of all. That's kind of our helper that says we're talking about lots of things. Okay, so on Thursday, I always want to say Friday, but I forget that you guys didn't have school on Friday. On Thursday, we talked about adding ER and EST. It's kind of similar. When we add ER, we're talking about how many nouns?
Only 1. Or 2.
2 is when we add ER. So it's kind of the same. Then if we have 3 or more nouns, we use most or we add the ending EST. Okay, so our rules are kind of similar. So we never add ER and more or EST and most to a sentence. We don't want both of them. Well, we would add EST to the adjective. So if I'm comparing, who should we compare? Or what? Like, do you have a brother, right?
I don't want to compare him.
Okay, who do you want to compare to?
You and Miss Kapicha.
Okay, we could say, I think you're taller than me, aren't you?
I don't know, maybe with my shoes.
Okay, probably with your shoes.
That's how I
Okay,
get
so
to
we
cheat.
could say, Mrs. Krupicka, would we say Mrs. Krupicka is more taller than Miss Neville? Does that make sense? No, that's what they mean by, we can't use more and then add ER to our adjective. That doesn't make sense.
Is
We-
taller than Miss Neville.
Yes, we could use just the ER and say Mrs. Krupicka is taller than Miss Neville, or we could just use Mrs. Krupicka is more tall. But usually we use more when we have long adjectives. Tall is kind of a short adjective, so we can just add ER onto the end. Okay, so let's look. They give us an example that's not right. Tiger is more smarter than Ginger. What's wrong with that? More smarter. Did they just choose one of these?
Yeah.
Which one did they use?
More.
More? What about smart? Did they add ER on the end?
No.
Oh, so did they just choose one or did they use both? Used both. Can we use both?
No.
No. So that's what's wrong. You can't use both.
So you cross out the more and just use smarter.
You could use just smarter, or you could say Tiger is more smart. You just have to use one. You can't use both.
Yeah.
Okay, so Tiger is the most intelligentest cat. Did they use one or did they use both?
I haven't. Oh. They only used only one.
Which one did they use?
Three or more. Three or more.
They're talking about three or more. Did they use most or did they add EST?
They did both.
They did both. And can you do that?
No.
No, it doesn't make sense.
So it would be most intelligent.
Yes.
You'll get it.
Yeah.
Tiger is the intelligent.
Remember, intelligent, is that a short